All right. Welcome back, everyone. We're very fortunate to have with us Mr. Adam Soul, and he is the founder of A World Without Money. And what's the other name that it's known by, your work?
Well, it used to be known as the Road to Life Plans, but
Sure.
since I've redone it, and now it's a worldwithoutmoney.org.
Okay, great. And we're about to take a look at your 11-minute video that you just updated. Um, anything you want to tell us about that video before we watch it?
Well, it's called Message to the Second and Third Worlds. And it's just to tell them um, that the best way, I think, that um, to actually to save the world is to bring humanity aboard, give humanity a place on the internet where we can meet and come together and use technology and give everyone a chance to save the world. Because there's a huge database of people out there with all kinds of information that we haven't tapped into. There's 4 times as many people as in our 20%. You know, I mean, because I keep quoting that 20% of the world holds 90% of the world's wealth. So that means that 80% of the world lives off of 10% of the wealth, which means that they really don't have any voice because they can't afford it. I mean, and those are really round numbers, you know.
Yeah.
But
No, it's really profound what you've put together. I it's believe it or not, it's like the first video I can remember in a while that as soon as as soon as I finished watching it, I want to watch it again. That's saying a lot for me.
yes.
Anyway, well, without further ado, why don't we jump in and watch the video? So I'm going to pause this recording, and so please see the link below to watch Adam's video, and then as soon as you watch the video, then come back here. So please pause this video now and watch that video and then come back. We'll see you in 11 minutes. All right, we've just seen your video, and just amazing. Now, Adam, my only kind of burning question is, let's say we make the transition to a world without money. How do we incentivize humanity so that the right people go to the right workplaces and do the right work at the right time, the right way, right? How do we incentivize, versus everyone basically just saying, you know what, it was time for me to retire anyway. See you later, everybody. I'm going home to relax, and anyway, you get what I'm saying. How do we do that?
I don't think we have to. I think the people who are out there doing the work right now, they're not doing it to get paid. They're doing it because they're needed, because humanity needs them. And I think people are a lot better than capitalism makes them out to be.
That's a really good point, because one of the first thoughts I had was, well, let's say there's some complicated city water district with all these different pumps and everything like that, and what if some critical worker walks off the job and decides to retire or commit suicide or something like that. And then it just occurred to me that there are managers at these facilities, and it's their job that if somebody leaves or whatever, they find a replacement. And this doesn't have to be any exception to that. Anyway, let me pause recording for a moment. All right. So resuming. So we were having a conversation about incentives, and Adam, if you don't mind restating, I mean, my question was, what will incentivize the right people to go to the right workplaces to do the right work at the right time, the right way, in order for basically the wheels of the economy to keep turning, right? That's one question. And Adam, I'll let you recap and maybe even expand upon it. And then I've got more questions, as I'm sure Cesare does and others. So please carry on, Adam.
Well, I think
I gotta go in 11 minutes though, just to let you know.
Okay.
I'll be,
Well, in that case, Cesare, why don't you ask your questions, and then you know, since we've got limited time.
so in a world without money, will people have the freedom to create money if they want to?
Well, I think people would have the freedom. I don't think that they would want to, because we're going to have to be movable. I mean, we're going to have to, the future that in order to survive the future, we're going to have to get serious. I mean, we're going to have to be adaptable and be able to move and change course, and we can't do that with money.
That was a yes or no question. So yes or no, the people will have the freedom to do that, or they will not. You want to prevent people from
They would
doing
have
what they
the
want?
freedom. They would have the
Or,
freedom.
so people, okay.
The
Well
way I
then,
see it, everything would be voluntary.
I'm not going to take credit for it, because obviously it's a great idea created by someone else, but I will introduce money into that world, and other people, I think, will be grateful for that and will cooperate with me on that. So that's the future of the world without money, is a world with money.
Well, the world with money hasn't worked since we've had money. I mean, since money began, it hasn't worked. So
I disagree with you. I think it works very well, and I don't think you understand how it works. I think you have like an infantile understanding of how the world works, and I'd be happy to,
Sorry, no. Sorry, that's going too far. So let's take a break there. Really, let's just give it a break.
I don't think it was that offensive what I was saying. I'm just trying to emphasize the point of how little he understands, and I'm happy to to discuss some of these fundamental concepts with him. But
yeah, but not that way here in this forum. Okay, so that crossed the line. So let's just take a timeout is my request. Here, I'm going to pause recording. All righty. Welcome back after a pause. So I think, I like, for example, here's my general feeling about it, right? Just what's my heart feeling in this? What my heart feels is that humanity would totally step up to the plate, and folks would do what is needed, right? And we would do it very happily, because we'd be like, wait a second, it would be so empowering. It's like, what can we do? Not, well, what are you gonna fund it? You can get funding. What sociopath are you gonna go to shake down to loan you the money at usurious interest rates to, I mean, it's just, it's like, here's the thing. Your 11-minute video, what it helped me feel was liberation from an oppressive system. It gave me a feeling of liberation, that, wow, this is so clear, right? Seeing all this growth, particularly urban growth, as cancerous. And but that's not to say we need to abandon it or destroy it or anything of the sort. And I know nobody's saying that. Now, the feeling that it gives me is a feeling of that of humanity just pulling together and saying, yes, let's do this, right? That's the feeling it gives me.
Well, look at the right now. I mean, we're in a lockdown practically all over the world, and I mean, why don't they just freeze the economy? Why do we have to keep paying for everything?
Well, yeah.
Yes, we do have to pay for gasoline or something, but I don't know. I mean, it just seems like, I guess we do have to pay for gasoline. I mean, I'm throwing a question out there.
Well,
Why do we have to keep paying for stuff?
Well, so here's the interesting thing. Here's the really interesting thing. And here's where I think we can make a clean division. Just consider sort of a hybrid world, okay? The hybrid world would go like this. Humanity would pull together to ensure that we all have the basic needs covered. Water, sewer, nutritious vegan foods, and even basic clothing, et cetera, et cetera. And then beyond that, healthcare, access to open space and libraries and all that sort of thing, public transportation, all that good stuff, right? And like a bicycle or something like that, bicycle, a soccer ball, whatever, just a basic bundle, right, that covers your basic human needs. And then including toothpaste, right? An example Adam uses frequently. So let's say there's just like a good solid, toothpaste that's in like a reusable, refillable container even, right? Let's end this single-use crap, right? So even like certain basic goods could be purveyed, could be supplied in a way that is sustainable. So even like freshly baked bread, not everyone needs to bake bread in their own home, right? Certain things that make sense to do, like I think bakeries just make sense, but delivered by bicycle and delivered in a way that the packaging is reusable. Maybe it's delivered in a hemp bag inside of an insulated wooden box on the back of a bicycle, and it gets dropped off in your insulated box on the porch or something like that. Anyway, maybe I'm getting a little bit too granular, but my point is, we could provide a sort of like a basic sustenance package of basic foods, right? Delivered fresh to your door. You don't have to go to some store. It's just delivered. It's born out of the coronavirus, but you know what? It's going to be such a nice system, right? That we don't have to turn it off. We can just keep it flowing. So rent-free, wherever you are, just stay there, right? Wherever you're living, just stay there and stop paying rent, right? Free food, free water, and then beyond that, now here's where you kind of have, where I think it might be wise to give a little, because Cesare has a good point. Hey, what if somebody creates money? I mean, Bitcoin was created purely out of software and just pushed out onto the internet, and then it just became a thing of its own, right? It's going to be hard to stamp out Bitcoin. I mean, impossible, basically. because it's totally decentralized. It's super exciting stuff. And another default currency is gold. Just freaking gold coins, gold, grams of gold, whatever. So given those two things, but imagine this, imagine that those hard currencies basically are used for instead of barter and trade, but mainly among wealthy folks who have just a lot of surplus leftover stuff. And then in between those two, sandwiched in between those two bookends of basically, eco-communism, I'd say eco-CSI communism, right? Because it's collective superintelligence empowered distribution of these, these goods and services to the people. So that's one bookend. Let's just call it the communist bookend. The other is the capitalist bookend, which is, hey, people are going to use money anyway. In the middle, we have, let me just show some slides super quick, super basic. Sandwiched in the middle, and this would now be repurposed for some other purpose entirely, which I'll talk about. But sandwiched in the middle would be triple C companies. They would trade on the open market. I mean, they would buy and sell and all this. They would provision certain goods and services for free. They might trade in others, and if they do trade in others for currency, then all profits would go to, well, hunger would be eradicated already, right? So this would go to something else, but that's something else very, benevolent, like SRM or something like that, right? And for ending hunger, for making sure everyone's well nourished, we have community cafes, right? In today's Corona world, these would be mobile delivery, all right, community cafes. But the basic principle is the same: feed communities nutritious foods for free, no money involved. And those are the bases for the Hungerless Games. The community cafe is over here, ending hunger. Here goes the money flow. And the news of the eradication of hunger would drive a global movement that would cause more people to buy Triple C. And there's the first Triple C company. So anyway, that would be literally a three-phase system, right? Pure greedy capitalism on one bookend, communism on the other, and Triple C in the middle. Anyway, I'm going to go on mute. I've said quite a mouthful there.
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is that there's a lot of waste built into this financial world that we live in. I mean, there's so much waste. I've done several calculations and estimates, and I think we could easily have a 15-hour work week. I mean, here in America, we have a 40-hour work week, which is said to be standard. It's actually longer than that, especially when you add in the commute time and being stuck bumper to bumper traffic and all this stuff. It's pretty grueling, and picking up your kids. So it's if you reduce that down to 15 hours a week, you could have a volunteer workforce, and you could have. And I think people would step up to the plate to volunteer. We could have everything we needed. I mean, I went into a Walmart store, like Jamin was saying, and counted 300 different choices of toothpaste. I mean, that's just absurd. You go to the store to buy a toy, and it's got all kinds of, it's all the packaging, all those inks and dyes and the cellophane and everything is made to be attractive, to be, it's made for advertising. And we don't really even think about how much of an effect advertising has on us. I mean, it's really been affecting us for the last half a century, especially longer, about 70 years probably. And, you
So,
know, and so you said that well, we could live where we live now. Well, what about people that own more than one house?
well, see, that's why I said live where you're living now. So if they own more than one house and they're renting the other houses to other folks, that would be kind of ideal. But if they own more than one house and they've just got like 2 or 3 vacation homes just sitting empty, right? Well, screw that. Let's move some people in there, and then so we'd maybe have some kind of, basically like a list of folks who need a place to live, right?
But those people that they own the other houses, they're already got a pretty nice house. They've got a nice place to live, and they, and in the world that I'm talking about, everybody would get their food for free, and you wouldn't have to pay for your utilities and things like that. And so why would you need to take rent from somebody else who
Oh,
doesn't
no,
taxes
that's what I'm
getting
saying.
you?
I'm agreeing with you. No rent, no rent. So, so if Bob is renting an apartment and paying, $1,800 a month for the apartment, uh, before the transition, after the transition, Bob would remain living in the same apartment and pay $0 per month rent.
Yeah.
Rent free. So stay where you are and rent free, right? And then if you're some rich cat with 5 houses and 4 of them are empty, and you're living in the biggest one on Malibu, well, keep your big Malibu house, but the other 4 are going to be lived in by people who need a place to live.
So Cesari said something to me last week that he said it was impossible to make um, a computer modeling system not biased, because it would always be biased. And I don't think that's true. And I was wondering what you thought about it, because on this humanities platform, we're going to need a mediator. The way I have it laid out on my website is that it would be the qualification that everyone would have to meet, that all designs would have to meet, is they would have to provide a sustainable future for the children of the world. If they met that qualification, then as far as I could see, that their way would work. But it wouldn't be another human being that could fairly judge that. So I think the only way that you could really fairly judge something like questions like that would be to have an unbiased modeling program that was verifiable, that, so that people would plug in, like you would plug in your 3C compassionate corporation idea in there, and other people would plug in their ideas, and everybody would have a place to plug in their ideas for what will work the best in the future, what will provide that sustainable future for the children of the world. And then the computer comes back and tells us, what it measures those ideas against the qualification of providing the sustainable future for the children. And it'd come back and say, well, your idea has a 50% chance of working, and your idea has an 80% chance. And your idea over here, you have a 90% chance, or 95. So, in that way, we could dial it in. What do you think about that?
That sounds perfect. That sounds awesome. See, because what the model, the model will seek to model physical reality, based on data, right? So if you want to estimate how many heads of broccoli, how many kilograms of broccoli you're going to be able to harvest per hectare, right?
Right.
Look to the data. And you may adjust those projections up or down depending on temperature, actual projected temperature, rainfall, etc. That's fair. But there's no bias in that. You're always trying to predict as best you can, and that's a science. It's not something to bias. Bias would apply in other realms, and like, for example, for optimization, that definitely implies bias. Well, what's optimal?
If you put money into it, the equation, and you try to, figure out finances and how you're going to pay interest and all this kind of stuff. It just seems like that would make it an awfully lot more complicated. What do you think, James?
But well, just to give a quick comment to that, since we're deep into it, the only thing I agree with you there, that money would complicate it tremendously. So even in a modeling a world without money, so the physical models would be unbiased. But what I'm saying, that for optimization purposes, if you wanted to find the optimal plan, right, that would involve bias, even in a world without money. Why? Because your objective function, basically, everything here, I'll just screen share again if you guys aren't tired of seeing my creative PowerPoints. Let's see here. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Now, Adam and James, I know you two both know these slides. Natalie, have you seen these slides? I think you have, but I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, somebody let me know what she says. So, but the basic idea of having a whole world and then breaking the needs of a whole world down into what's called a teleological taxonomy. What does Natalie say? Anyway, and we keep breaking it down all the way down to leaf node needs, right? And then we find solutions to meet those leaf node needs. If you've got all these leaf node needs, the reality is not all of the leaf node needs are going to be able to be fulfilled 100% like we want them to be, right? Okay. So, like, for example, I'm sure you guys know that probably a few hundred species per day are going extinct. I don't know if they're getting a brief reprieve from the slowdown in economic activity, but certainly with the upcoming super hot summer that awaits us, with all the vicious cycles that Guy McPherson has cataloged, that may accelerate. But anyway, but the bottom line, here's my point. No matter how well we optimize, it's going to be really hard to have zero extinction from here on out. To go from 300 per day or whatever, 200, 300 per day down to 0 per day, it's just not realistic. So even though we need to conserve every last species, we're not going to fulfill each and every one of those needs. So the question is, what weighting do you assign to each of those needs so that the optimization layer that surrounds the physical model, again, unbiased, the optimization layer that surrounds it, and in fact, I've got slides for that, the optimization layer that surrounds the physical model, right, which we'll see in a moment. There's the simulator, that's the physical model, no bias. the optimization layer goes around the simulator. That depends upon an objective function, and that's bias no matter how you slice it. But that's kind of a technical point. The bottom line is that even with some bias, you're not going to be able to bias it that much, because what's right is right, and what's right is to save life, as much life as possible. Let's quit fucking around with Keynesian economics, Adam Smith's invisible hand. You know, screw all that. It's time to save life, right? And it's time for humanity to step up and do our part and do the right thing and work together and stop starving, you know, 1 billion people to death and malnutrition and permanent disadvantage, right? I mean, my goodness. Enough is enough. Enough bullshit. Adam, I think you've really hit on some really key stuff. And the bottom line is that the basics need to be provisioned in a world without money, period. Beyond the basics, all right, let's see what we do, right? Because
well, I think you said that there was that there was always going to be word you used, bias. There would always be bias.
no, the bias, the bias is in the objective function for finding the optimal
Yeah,
optimal set of solutions.
You were saying there was always going to be optimal. Well, I think you would remove a lot of that optimal by basically by just saying that we're designing on the platform is meant to design a new future. And while we're designing the future on the platform, we're not changing the world we live in now. That the world does whatever it wants to do. If it wants to, stop using money, then let it. If it wants to keep using money, let it. But we can't go anywhere unless we have a design. We have to know, we have to have a plan. We have to have a map to tell us where to go. Because the future is Guy McPherson says that he doesn't think there'll be a person alive on the earth by 2030. And probably much sooner than that. So we have to plan for that. And I think we make the rule, the guiding line is to provide a sustainable future for the children of the world. And that's the guiding line. Sets the bar for everything. If it doesn't meet that qualification, then it's not going to go in there. And that would be a simple call. I think that could be determined in an unbiased way. And then we figure out everything out around that. And that's why, on the platform, you would have topic teams. And the topic teams should be composed, it should be composed of everybody, not just, the people in the 20% that are highly educated and stuff, but people that are everybody, the meek, they have malice, they have wisdom too, and they have just as much right to live as anybody. Yep.
All right, so question for you, Adam. For the topic teams and all that, right? Why not simply work with, and to some degree within, the broader collective superintelligence, right? Where topic teams are inherently dynamic and self-organizing. They're not just like, okay, you're the team, you've got 6 months, let's see what you're gonna, that's old world, hierarchical, patriarchal, just old patterning. With collective superintelligence, everyone's a free agent, right? And everyone goes wherever the hell they want, and participates in whatever meetings they want. On this, I agree with Cesare. Freedom, right? Zip around, go for it, right? Rather than some other antiquated model of trying to organize teams. Is that making sense to you? Because here's the thing here, but actually, before I pass you the talking stick, Adam, the point is this, that whatever the optimal solution is, I think the only way we have a snowball's chance in hell of finding what that optimal solution is to turn collective superintelligence onto the problem of discovering and designing that optimal set of solutions and that optimal path forward, that optimal plan, right? CSI is the thing to develop it for so many reasons, not the least of which is it's going to go exponential, right? So and its aim is a whole world. That's by design, right? That's what it's going to crank out, our optimal solutions toward a whole world. So anyway, back to you, Adam.
Well, like I said, you're going to use these optimal solutions. I mean, there's going to be a million of them. I mean, you've got one idea for an economy, and somebody else has an idea. And there's a whole bunch of different ideas for different economies. But the reality is that the kids of the future aren't going to be able to enjoy an economy. They're going to be, I mean, according to Guy McPherson, they'll be lucky to live. I mean, if you compare the ratio of, like you said that the base was when we were hunter-gatherers and we lived on Earth for like anthropologists tell us that says that we lived on the Earth for like 300,000 years before civilization began as Homo sapien hunter-gatherers. And they say that our average population was about 10 million. Well, if you compare that to today's number, then that's a 780 to 1 ratio. So that's what our children will be up against. And that's why we need to start we need some mana machines. I mean, I think, that's the corporation I would be investing in is blue-green algae machines. Because, I mean, investing is just wrong. I mean, we have to be able to act and react fast. Go ahead, James.
I think you're both arguing the same coin from the same side. What Jamin is saying is that in order for the topics to be decided on, they have to come from somewhere, and they come from the collective intelligence conversations. And then through those conversations, you come up with the topical solutions. The AI is used to put all those conversations together in the right rooms in order to achieve that. And I get what you're saying about the children, but I think Jamin is saying the same thing, because the objective is to sort out the world and fix the world's problems. And who else are we doing it for but the children and future generations of children to come? Because we're not doing it for us. It's too late for us already. But we're trying to do it for the generations below us and those that are to come, because we're the ones responsible collectively for fucking it up in the first place. So if like, as you said, there's going to be lots of different topics and lots of different conversations. Of course there are, because it's going to take a myriad of conversations on a myriad of topics to fix the myriad of problems that we have. So you need collective intelligence and the AI to put all those conversations together to fix those. But if they all have that simple premise that you're on about, Adam, that they're all based on that simple premise, that's the one premise that every one of those conversations and every one of those people in their different fields, they all have the same primeval goal. Premise of that is to make the world better for all children on the planet equally, and future generations.
Mm-hmm.
And how we come up with that will then, like, with everybody in their different fields and different inputs, we figure out through CSI, figure out the solutions to achieve that. And the AI is the part of the that will put all those conversations in one room. When all those conversations have come to a finite, where people agree that yes, this is the best solution, all those solutions are put into the pile, and the AI goes, okay, that one, that one, that one, maybe some of that, and maybe some of that. We'll have a bit of salt and a bit of pepper and a bit of paprika, and boom's your uncle. There's your fucking plan, boys. Go that way. That's what we're trying to achieve here. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we're just baking. We're just baking. And nobody likes to bake bread. Some people love baking bread. Some people would live for just getting up in the morning and smelling the fucking smell of baked bread. Others would actually fascinate you to know. Others would actually like the smell of sewage. I know people who work in sewers and that, like, and they like that job. That's what their calling is. So everybody has their calling. And I agree with what you're saying. If we only had to work, think about this one. If we only had to work 20 hours or even 3.5 days a week. But if we work 20 hours a week, you're given 3 people in the 1 week the same job. Or if you had to do 12-hour shifts, you're giving 6 people the one job in the same week without tiring them out, without boring them, without frustrating them, without tying up all their time in their own lives and what they want to do, and in the looking out for the best interest for their children. They're not having to worry about paying for the food on the table because that's been taken care of in the collective as well. Yeah, it's a possible situation that we can fix if we sit down together and figure it out. And I agree with you. There was a time on the planet when if you were above in a spacecraft and looked down, you wouldn't see man's indentation on this planet. You wouldn't see the destruction that we were causing because there were so few of us, obviously, but also because we weren't in the pursuit of money at that time. So there was a time when we managed to achieve, there were societies and still that can achieve harmonious existence without money. And we can go back to that again. As foreign as that idea may seem to the majority of people on the planet, it is our only solution.
You said a lot. Yeah. Well, that's why it's see the topic teams. I think they could be made up of any, like say there were 10 people on a team, and I think that it should be distributed equally, because there should be a platform for humanity, there should be hired workers. I mean, as long as we live in this world of money, we're going to have to work within the world of money. So there would be a hired staff that would work, that would help the rest of the people that come on the platform to design this future. Would show them and facilitate, help them use the modeling programs, so that then the 80% could do whatever they wanted. They could ask the same questions, and get answers that they needed in that way.
Yeah, I think that's what this platform is offering. It's offering a free, open conversation to anyone who's willing to join in and partake, and anyone who's willing to put input into it. And regardless of how big or small that input seems to be, or how significant or insignificant that input seems to be, it all contributes. And that means that everyone, all inclusive, can contribute if they so wish. And that is how you build collective intelligence. That is how you address the problems of everyone, because they're getting their chance to put in their input. They're getting their chance to maybe suggest solutions. So that is collective intelligence. And I think you answered that question earlier on when you said about paying people to go on this platform and get it going. That's not necessary. You answered that question earlier on when Jamin asked you, How would we keep things going in a world without money? How would we get people out to do the jobs that are necessary in society that some people don't even view as being a pleasant job to do? Again, you answer that by saying people step up. People, nature of man isn't dictated. It is dictated now by money, but it was, we underestimate humanity when it comes to finances, like as you said. Like, so I think people will step up when they see that there's a better option. People always step up.
Yeah. And when we if we got rid of money, there would be, all of a sudden, there would be a whole bunch of buildings that we wouldn't need anymore. I mean, factories, instead of having 300 different choices of toothpaste, we could have, 6 or 7, or, maybe even a dozen different choices with refillable containers, and all of a sudden there would be a whole lot of factories that, and not to mention all the financial buildings that could be bulldozed down, and we'd have a lot of extra time, so people would volunteer to go down to that industrial valley and start cleaning it up and turn those buildings into grass and trees, and in a couple of years, it wouldn't take that long. And I mean, they've already seen results, even with this virus, of the canals over there in Venice have cleaned up. That just the stopping of so much industry will clean up a whole lot. And, pretty soon, the next generation that's born could go down to those rivers and go fishing, like I used to be able to do when I was a kid, like my dad did when he was a kid. But you can't do that anymore. The kids don't see what we had before. And
well, that would be part of the collective's intelligence plan of making a world a better future for children, is to bring about that world again for them. And why bulldoze all those buildings down or factories down? We would still need infrastructure. We would still need to carry on as a civilization, but we're just carrying on without the monetary situation. So just repurpose those factories, repurpose those buildings, the ones that have no necessity there, and have already are the responsibility for destroying ecosystems, then revitalize those ecosystems. It's about repairing the mistakes that we made. And as I said, there's a myriad of problems out there, but with a myriad of people working on a myriad of solutions, that's how we fix it.
I think technology has a lot to do with it too.
Yeah, but what my point is, Adam, is that your concept is a great concept, but you're now picking holes in it yourself. Like, rather than concentrate on the nitty-gritty individual little things that need to be attended to, because we could talk about them all day long, really, because there is, as I said, a myriad of problems that need to be dealt with. But we need to concentrate on how do we build on this platform in order to address all those problems. That's the time then to start discussing how do we fix that one, how do we fix this one. When we build on this platform and get the people joining in, that's how we can discuss those things and solve them.
Basically what you're saying, James, is by building out the collective superintelligence, that will then solve all those problems, right? It's kind of like, let me make a kind of a simple analogy, right? Let's say that I deal in all kinds of scrap cardboard and scrap paper of different thicknesses. And I'm saying, oh, well, I need this size knife with this size blade to shred this kind of thick board, this other size knife. And James comes along and says, Jamin, you're wasting your time. Get this one universal shredder. It'll shred everything. Done. Okay. That's CSI, the universal problem shredder, right? I mean, and so that, but I think what CSI needs to be guided And that's where I think we see a marriage of a world without money and CSI, because a world without money basically operates at the level of fundamentals and values. And, I personally encapsulate all that with the words whole world, right? What does the world need to be whole? Well, it certainly doesn't need money. That's a poison, right? And, so map it out. Basic needs, even higher needs, spiritual needs for humanity. Why not? Music, arts, open space, right? It's not just about food and water and shelter. So map it all out. And, the needs of a whole world, of all the different plant and animal species, ecosystems, life supporting systems, everything. And create an optimal plan for the optimal fulfillment of all of the needs of a whole world. And then do it, right? So I think really we just need to merge these two worlds together, a world without money and CSI. I think that's what needs to happen. That's my take.
Yeah, I agree. And the main thing here is that everyone that is coming to this platform is coming here, as I said, Adam, with that premise in the back of their minds. We're all here for the right reasons, and we're here voluntarily. So that's just a typical example of people stepping up already. And the more people that learn about this and realize the potential of it, then they're going to step up too. That's the way I see it anyway. I have faith in humanity too.
Well, I think technology is really important, and because part of it is restoration of our environment, and I think we should have the goal of returning the big megafauna that we used to live with us, and reducing our populations down to in a humane way. Which would be to not have babies and to not even get pregnant. That would be the most humane way to reduce our populations. But I mean, even the coronavirus will reduce our population. And I mean, the coronavirus is just our first big test, as far as I can tell. It's we have to adapt, and that's the most important thing. We have to adapt. And I mean, it wasn't what's his name? The historical guy, that created all he did the
Darwin?
Darwin, yeah, Darwin. And he said that it's getting late. He said that it's not the most intelligent of the species. It's not the strongest or the fastest. He says it's that survives. It's the species that's able to adapt that survives, and that's what we have to do. And so, I think we don't have a way of coming together and doing that. If we had a platform for humanity, then we would have a way of coming together and doing that, where everybody can submit their own ideas. I mean, there's a lot of ideas out there, and that's what I like about the conversation thing with Jamin's Radical Collective Intelligence, is a person could actually digitize their own idea by just speaking it into to the computer. And then that idea would go into the whole mix in the database with all the other ideas that from patents and every place. And then the computer, because we know how to do a lot of things, but we can't do them because all the information's spread out here and there and all over the place. We don't have any way of bringing it together. And we probably know why the pyramids are there. We probably know exactly why they're there, but their information's all over the place, so we can't put it all together. But this is a way of putting it all together and coming up with solutions that we can definitely that we can sink our teeth into and actually come up with answers that that would solve. Like, for instance, we have to be able to geoengineer our planet, because we are not going to be able to make it. Our children are not going to be able to make it unless there, and we have to do it in a strategic way. We have to operate on Mother Earth, and we have to plan that out and know how to exactly do it exactly the right way. And so we have to muster our forces, and this is why it needs to be humanity's platform. So we muster our forces, and we I mean, everybody pitches in. We get that platform equipped with AI or whatever we have to make it able to give us those answers. So we can come up with the answers, and we know exactly how to geoengineer our planet, how to operate on Mother Earth, because that's what we're going to have to do.
And that's what we are doing. You're here already, sitting here. You're instigating it as we speak. You know what I mean? This is the platform for doing all that. You know what I mean? So that was just a great advertisement for it in itself. They were like that. You know what I mean? We're here already. Yep. It's only in its pioneering stages, and again, I'm going to reiterate Schopenhauer's 3 facts about truth. All truth goes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Secondly, it is violently opposed, and thirdly, it is accepted as being common sense, or self-evident, as the quote goes.
Yeah, so I don't know. I just been looking at money as a poison for a long time, and it's just opened my eyes to a lot of things, just understanding.
Well, having and I'll pull up some other slides here just real quick. Having worked in the realm of having worked in the realm of, let me get the right portion. Having worked in the realm of prohibition, right? In this case, prohibition of cannabis, but prohibition is prohibition. And y'all have seen these slides. And gotten gobs of media attention, worked with former Mexican President Vicente Fox. What I learned up close and personal is that you can prohibit all you want, but there will always be criminal organizations that will that will traffic in this stuff anyway. It's true with cannabis. It's also true with cashabis. Let's call it cashabis, all right? And so we're not going to be able to prohibit cashabis. In fact, this whole conference was around eradicating prohibition, not eradicating cannabis fields, but eradicating prohibition. Anyway, so I'm just saying, I don't think we're going to be able to prohibit money, but what was the answer? What was it that President Vicente Fox and I were advocating for in all those press conferences and symposia? What we were advocating for was very simple. Don't prohibit cannabis, legalize it, tax it, and most importantly, regulate it, right? Now, in the case of money, right, again, don't prohibit it, but tax it and regulate it, right? Literally tax it and regulate it. And we can tax it right out of existence. Why not? And we can regulate it into its proper place. Get it away from food, right? Other than maybe specialty foods, but even that, it's kind of hard to draw the line. Maybe get it out of food completely. Bye-bye. You don't belong here in the realm of food. And here's Cesare.
We can, talk about that all the time, all
Actually,
day, but
before Cesare gets back in, I just want to share something. You asked about the pyramids and how did the pyramids get there? Cesare says that the pyramids are there because it was profitable for someone to put them there. Welcome back, Cesare. That was a joke, by the way. Welcome back, Cesare. All right. Welcome back, Cesare. We are on the final hour of the 8th 24-hour block party. And it is April 4th, a very important day for setting our intentions for the world we want, as we learned earlier today. So anyway, we're recording. I'm just going to pause real quick. Okay. So, yeah, we've been having just a pretty super cool conversation about, basically, Cesare, what you said towards the end there really struck a chord with me, which is, hey, we're not going to be able to eradicate money, right? Or prohibit money. I mean, I worked on prohibition with President Vicente Fox, and it's well known you cannot prohibit drugs out of existence. I don't think you were going to be able to prohibit money out of existence. And so I think the key in both cases, drugs and money, they're both addictive substances, as Adam has pointed out. But I think the key for both is regulation and taxation. Anyway, that's just my personal view, and I think that and part of the regulation is regulating it out of certain areas. So when I was in college, I worked for a company which for a time was the biggest engineering company in the world, Bechtel Corporation. And in fact, a lot of the Reagan cabinet were Bechtel executives.
well, so you're the one, did you put the reactor in backwards down in Santa Onofre?
Yeah, I did. I'm sorry. I had had a little bit too much to drink the night before. But anyway, back to Bechtel. What was the? Oh yeah, they tried to literally privatize. Well, they worked with the Bolivian government to privatize water in Cochabamba, Bolivia. I believe was the municipality, and sell it for money and make a profit off of it. And it was a disaster, and the people revolted, and the Bolivian army came in and shot some civilians, and it was just a complete disaster. So that's an example of regulating money out of a particular sector, water, right, for example. Anyway, that's just an example. But I think having established some bookends, right, and a proper framing, I think we're now in a place where we can actually operate on this rationally, rather than just from like an ideal of a world without money, which, believe me, I would love to see. I would actually love it if no one ever had invented it in the first place. But since the cat's out of the bag, by the way, there's somebody in the waiting room. It says Michael Lake. Let me see who it is. Hopefully it's not a hacker.
He's good.
Oh,
Good.
okay.
So you,
Welcome, Michael. Oh, you're on mute, Michael. You're on mute. I'm going to unmute you. I
Okay.
just unmuted you, Michael. But ideally you would mute and unmute yourself. But that's that. We'll get to that later. Welcome, Michael. How are you?
Yeah, good. And yourself?
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, I just had a meeting with Cesare, and I was invited to join this meeting. Hi to everybody.
Yeah. Awesome. Great to see you, Michael. And Michael, where are you calling in from?
I'm in Australia, Western Australia, Perth is the capital city.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I know exactly where Perth is. And
Yeah.
wow. It seems like quite an exotic location. I don't know if exotic is the word, but it's definitely.
It's it is very arid. It isn't anywhere near as scenic. Well, what I call scenic. Lots of Europeans and the Japanese and the Chinese love it because there's lots of desert and red rock and that. But I've been living here too long. It's quite boring for me. I like the forest and the running water and stuff, you know. But I'm close by the ocean, so I go for a swim quite often. Anything to do with the water and the beach. I'm not really a freshwater person, but the ocean's good. What about yourself?
Oh well, I'm on Whidbey Island in the state of Washington, right near.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, where Seattle is located. And I also love saltwater. I love kayaking in the
Oh,
saltwater.
really? Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've got a nice mix of folks here. We've got at the top of the screen you should see Adam Soul.
Yeah. Yeah. Hi there, Adam.
Adam's also in the state of Washington. Then we got James.
Yeah.
James, he is in Cork, Ireland.
Oh, really? Well, there you go.
Yeah, and certainly you know where Cesare is, and Natalie.
Well,
where
he's
is
in the.
Cesare? I was wondering.
Oh,
So,
Cesare is in Poland.
well, he said he was in the Ukraine, and I was a bit confused because if I had the name of a city, I would better find him on my iPhone where his city is and get the time zone so that I could extrapolate how I fit into the meetings. You know?
I'm in Wrocław, Poland, but Roman is in Ukraine, and
okay.
yeah.
Cool. And Natalie is also in Ireland, though I don't know what part. I'm sure she'll let us know at some point. Anyway, so James, I'm sorry, what were you indicating? Oh, Cork. Oh, she's in Cork. She's in Cork. Okay, sorry. Cork, Ireland as well. Anyway, so yeah, well, goodness, it's so good to have you with us, Michael. We are just over 23 hours into a 24-hour collective intelligence block party.
All right. So, what's the collective intelligence?
Very good. Very good. Oh, and first of all, we're actually recording now. I'm going to pause for a second. So, collective intelligence. If I can ask you to put on your imagination cap, okay?
Yeah.
All right. So imagine a world in the not too distant future where just like this Zoom video conference we're on now, there are literally millions of Zoom video conferences, right? If there were one, there actually are, but imagine that there were millions that were essentially operating in tight coordination, right? What do I mean by tight coordination? That each of those video conferences would be operating according to the following very simple standards. They're broadcast live, they're recorded and published, on YouTube or wherever.
Yeah.
They're transcribed. So a complete text transcript, including who said what. And the AI would take care of all that, including who said what, because obviously it correlates my speech with my video, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is fairly basic stuff. And then all of that is then indexed in real time. So why is that important? So that if I'm searching for, hey, who is talking about in conversation solar radiation management, like right now, like in the last 3 minutes, right? And it'll take me right to that conversation. So imagine that among these millions of conversations, think of the conversations as flowers, growing in some massive meadow, and there's millions of flowers. We humans are like bumblebees going from flower to flower. So Michael, you and I, and Cesare, and Natalie, and James, and Adam, we all happen to be congregating on this one particular flower right now called the Collective Intelligence Block Party number 8. This is our 8th consecutive. We do this every week for 24 hours straight. And we start at 6 o'clock in the morning Pacific time. That's San Francisco time, Los Angeles time, Friday morning, and we go full 24 hours until 6 o'clock in the morning, Saturday morning. And we do that so that it's friendly to all time zones, including your time zone, right? Anyone's time zone, because 24 hours.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the San Francisco time zone because my daughter's over there. So about 11 o'clock in the morning's a good time, and probably if I'm swimming, 7 o'clock in the morning is not a good time, but usually from 7 to 11 or 12 is a good time, in the morning. Yeah.
Oh, good. And welcome back, Roman. I hope I'm saying your name right. And by the way, you're on mute. I'm going to unmute you. Okay, I unmuted you. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, Ukraine in the house. I don't think we've had Ukraine in the block party before, so I think we're up to your country number 18. So we now have 18 countries who have been on the block party.
Wow, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm proud of it.
Yes, you are representing Ukraine, and by the way, we are recording now. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, great. Thank you. Excellent.
Thank you so much, Jim.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we were just talking about collective intelligence, and Roman, have you had an introduction to collective superintelligence?
Like introduction in your group, or?
Yeah. In terms of what we're working on here, we there's a lot of different. You could think of collective intelligence as a giant hyper object, right? With so many different facets and dimensions. And so, for example, what Cesare has developed with Igora is one whole sector of that hyper object of collective intelligence, which is this marketplace for ideas, right?
Yeah, right.
A whole other slice, which Cesare has also been working with pretty intensively, is something which we have focused on quite a bit over at Radish, which is the organization which I lead, which is sponsoring this event, the Collective Intelligence Block Party, which meets every week for 24 hours straight.
Wow.
Yeah, we started.
Like,
we started at 6 o'clock in the morning Pacific time, which is around 3 or 4 Ukraine time. I don't know exactly your time zone there, right? We start at 6 in the morning Pacific time, San Francisco time, and we go a full 24 hours until 6 in the morning Saturday morning. So we're on the final hour right now of a 24-hour block party. This is our 8th consecutive weekly collective intelligence block party. And so the part of collective intelligence, well, we focus on two major facets or sectors of collective intelligence. The first is what I call the conversational domain, and the second is what I'll just call the solution builder. So the conversational domain is what I was describing for Michael. And Michael, I hope you don't mind my rewinding just a little bit.
No, that's fine.
Okay, great. It looks like Roman is a very sharp young man, so I'm sure you're picking up everything very quickly. Imagine that I'm going to ask you to put on your biggest imagination cap and imagine a future a little bit different from our present moment technologically, but really not very, very different at all. It's more in how we use the technology, okay? So imagine that, like this video conference that we're on right now, there are literally millions of Zoom video conferences, which there already are, of course. There's millions out there, but imagine that there are millions that are operating in relatively tight coordination around a central aim, which is the aim of saving as much of life on Earth as possible, eliminating the coronavirus, ending world hunger, cooling the planet through solar radiation management, cleaning up and deacidifying the oceans, getting the whole world to go vegan, or at a minimum, transition to a very healthy for people and healthy for the planet and humane for animals, coexistence with animals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Basically, do the obvious stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
Solve the obvious problems with the obvious urgency and obvious sequence. So imagine that to not only develop all the solutions that we need, but get them implemented in time within all the constraints that we have is a phenomenally complex problem for the planet to solve, right? Phenomenally complex set of problems to solve. So what's been hypothesized, not just by us, let's see, we've got Dave here trying to get into the meeting. I'm going to put yes to Dave and see. Hello, Dave. Welcome, or welcome back. I know a couple of Daves. Hello, Dave. Dave, welcome. All righty. Anyway, please feel free to say hello whenever it's good. Dave, we are recording. So what we're well, we didn't posit this, but it's, again, we are far from the only players in collective intelligence. In fact, Cesare and Adam, who's also on this call, and many others are working on different parts of collective intelligence. So it's truly this gigantic hyperobject. But what we maintain is that through the coevolution of a platform for collective intelligence, a culture and rule set for collective intelligence, and the community of people operating within a collective intelligence framework, within which we're operating right now, actually, just doing what we're doing. Oh, by the way, I need to let everybody know, this meeting is about to get canceled. Come back to the same exact link that got you here in the first place, and then we'll be able to continue, because they've got a 24-hour rule. I actually started this recording, this meeting 24 hours ago, and because we had to do all the technical setup and live streaming. So we're literally about to get shut down, but only for a moment, and then literally come back through exactly the same link.
Jim, I
Yes,
have a question.
right. I am so sorry. Good thinking, Cesare. That's what happens when you mediate a meeting that's 24 hours long. Your brain starts to get a little bit kooky. So thank you, Cesare. So false alarm. I think we're fine. Thanks. Okay, great. Awesome. So back to it. We believe that we can literally set in motion. Hey, sweetheart.
Hi, everyone.
We're
It's a
Hi.
tea break.
tea break.
Do you need some tea?
I'll
Tea
do
break,
tea, but we got to keep rolling
Yeah, you
because.
roll.
Can you
Okay.
can you pass the cup of tea through the screen for us?
Absolutely love. Hi. I'm in.
Hi.
Hello.
Listen, sweetheart. We've got Australia,
All right.
Poland, Ireland, Ukraine, and
Yay.
good old state of Washington
Hello.
in the house.
Hello.
And Dave.
Hello.
Dave is our mystery meat. We don't.
Dobra din. Is that right? Dobra din.
Yeah, that's it's fine. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Little bit of Russian.
Yeah, nice spelling.
All right.
The tea will be right up.
Righto. Cheerio. Okay, great. Anyway, so the form of collective superintelligence that we have been envisioning calls for an exponential coevolution of those different elements. Again, platform, technological platform, culture, rule set, community, and then the actual collective intelligence which emerges from the mashup of the preceding, right? You know, in a human being's intelligence is measured by IQ. Imagine a collective IQ being an objective measure of how intelligent the system as a whole is. How might that be measured? Well, imagine you might throw problem after problem to a person in an IQ test. Imagine you throw thousands of problems at a time at this collectively intelligent system, right? Like a giant tree shredder, it can handle, solving many thousands of problems in parallel. And in fact, problems which are interconnected, intertwined, and are considered wicked problems in today's world, in a collective superintelligence framework, wicked problems are quite tractable, quite solvable, right? Okay, so that's just.
Yeah, that's right.
Pardon me?
Yeah, fine. Yeah, okay.
Okay, so that was the 3-minute movie trailer to get you to come to the movie and spend $20 to watch the movie. Here's the movie. Okay, so.
Okay.
Okay, and here's where the big imagination cap is required. So imagine that, like this meeting, there are literally millions of other meetings that are happening in parallel, but they're all happening in relatively tight coordination. What is the nature of that tight coordination? Well, first of all, a visual. So imagine that each of these conversations is like a flower. So imagine a giant meadow with millions of flowers, okay? Each flower is a conversation, and it's growing. So think of the upward as the time dimension, and this flower is growing up. Now imagine that we human beings are the bumblebees. So currently there are 8 bumblebees centered around this flower, right? We are the bumblebees. So, and like bumblebees, we can go from flower to flower. We can go from conversation to conversation, right? Therein provides a crucial part of the interconnection, is that these flowers are shared by a population of millions of bumblebees, right?
All right.
Okay. And other forms of connection are, imagine that on the ground underneath the thin stems of the flowers is a taxonomic map, right? A taxonomy, basically a map of topics that has logical structure, right? So for example, if the topics were the parts of an automobile, you would see a standard bill of materials explosion as an upside down tree with the whole car at the top, and then, you know, major systems, subsystems, assemblies, parts, components, you know, all the way to the bottom, all the way to nuts and bolts, right? Okay, so that's an example of a logical taxonomy. There will be taxonomies across all different topics, from planetary overheating to all the contaminants and acidification of the ocean, to the melting of Arctic ice, to overpopulation, to human nutrition, to urban planning, to yada, yada, yada. Okay, so, and these various conversations typically span multiple different topics, right? So you can imagine a given conversation is planted here, which might be the center of mass between 7 different topics that it's at the intersection of, right? And so you can imagine lines of chalk. So if you imagine the taxonomies of topics in black, you can imagine lines of white chalk connecting a given conversation to its topics that it relates to. Fair enough? Okay.
Yeah.
All of these connections in aggregate, the taxonomy itself, the connections between specific conversations and specific topics within that taxonomy, the trajectories of specific human beings going from flower to flower, because we're essentially cross-pollinating. If I just came from a 5-hour conversation about solar radiation management, right, and I'm now dealing with a sort of central planning committee kind of conversation about, hey, what do we need to focus our resources on? I'm bringing the SRM, the solar radiation management conversation, to the central planning conversation, so to speak, right? Not that there is central planning, mind you, but just to kind of give it a little color, right? The bottom line is people can have conversations on whatever they want. People can plant flowers wherever they want, right? There is no,
Tea's over there.
thank you so much, sweetheart. Let me open that for you.
Yeah, thanks, honey.
Sure. Thank you, darling. And so it's if Cesare has a marketplace of ideas, this is a marketplace of conversations and connections, right? And discoverability. So let's talk about discoverability. So this conversation is being recorded and will be transcribed. And the text of the conversation, again, imagine, and this is just a slight improvement over what we have today, it'll be able to track who said what in the transcript. Jamin said this, right? Roman said that, Dave said this, etc. So complete transcripts, transcription in real time, and of the text that's transcribed in real time, it gets indexed also in real time, right? Why is that important? So that, for example, if Michael and I are having a conversation and we're like, hey, where can we find the conversations about solar radiation management, SRM, that are happening right now? So we type in SRM and we say, show us what's been happening, all the mentions of this in the last 5 minutes. And of 1 million active conversations, maybe 10,000 have mentioned SRM in the last hour, but only 300 in the last 5 minutes. and then we're also able to filter through those hundreds or thousands of conversations with other complex criteria, right? Michael and I want to talk about engineering solutions, right? Within the realm of SRM. We don't want to talk about whether or not SRM is a good idea. We're already convinced that it's a good idea, and we want to simply find the best ways to do it, right? Or maybe we are government folks, and we want to find conversations on SRM about budgeting and finance and government spending and, right? Okay, so basically, degree of advanced search on what we're looking for that would make Google's advanced search look like child's play. I'm talking real advanced search that you can parameterize.
Hello.
Thank you, sweetheart. Thanks.
Your tea's over there.
Thank you, darling. I'm talking real advanced search that gets you as granular as you want, right? So that each of us can then navigate and find our ways to those flowers where we can have the most impact, right? Where we can use our talents and our passions and our creativity in symbiotic combination with other bumblebees, with other humans, in order to either answer specific questions, brainstorm or brain swarm, note the word brain swarm, we'll get to that later, new possible solutions. They might be working on aspects of modeling, holistic computer modeling, which I'm a big believer in, having spent years of my life doing computer modeling. Or whether they're working on engineering solutions, political solutions, cultural solutions, media solutions, educational solutions, religious solutions. There is nothing beyond the scope of collective superintelligence. And let me just show you a quick image here that's from a different story that I was just telling. Let's look at, okay. So I'm going to talk with you. Remember I talked about the coevolution. Imagine the coevolution of a platform for collective superintelligence. That would be the information and communication technologies. And on top of that platform, an actual collective intelligence grows. That's the thing I was suggesting that we could measure with a collective IQ, an objective collective IQ. This is the actual collective intelligence. And that, of course, consists of the other things that I mentioned, the community of people, the culture, and the rule set. Those all co-evolve. So, but here you're just looking at the actual. As more and more people join, and as the other factors evolve, the actual collective intelligence grows and grows and grows. And it doesn't stop growing, but at some point its growth is constrained by the platform itself. But guess what? Good news. By this point, it will have grown so big that it will be able to design and build the next generation of the platform, which will be able to support a much greater actual collective intelligence. It'll basically become a much more efficient switching system and suggestion system for where you should go next and where I should go next. Of course, you're always master of your own fate, but having a good, AI-driven suggestion system is, of course, extremely valuable. And that much expanded collective intelligence sitting on this much improved platform will, among other things, be able to solve a whole bunch of bigger problems, more complex problems, more wicked problems than the previous combination. And among many other things, it will be able to design and build the next generation of the platform, which will be able to support an even greater collective intelligence. And because most of the evolution of the platform is software, okay, fine, let's get a better pair of Google glasses or something for augmented reality. Fine. But you get my point. Most of it's software. Most of it's in the realm of AI at this point, right? The culture is very soft stuff. The rule set is very soft stuff. And even bringing in more people is within the realm of very soft stuff, PR, right? Word of mouth, etc. So there's no reason why this exponential should not take off like wildfire, and there's no ceiling that I can imagine for it. So we're truly talking about a radically different paradigm for superintelligence. 90% of the conversation about, oh, strong AI, strong AI, strong AI. How about simply combining the light bulbs that we've already got? How about putting a bunch of batteries in series? I don't care if they're low, low voltage batteries. Put 10 of them in series and you get 10 times the voltage, right? Duh. So what we're really talking about is connecting human beings, but not in series, but in a vastly more efficient and powerful, dynamically reconfiguring network. Dynamically reconfiguring based on which problems has the collective superintelligence solved, which has it not solved, which does it have designs for that haven't been modeled. So it's constantly iterating, and developing better and better solutions to our problems, and as well as better and better platforms for the collective superintelligence itself. But that's a more foundational thing, but nonetheless very real. And it's part of the new paradigm. So we're no longer in a paradigm of look, let's face it. What the heck has been developed in the last 10 years that's even worth mentioning? Technologically, we've plateaued, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But it is high time for us to take off again in terms of our capabilities. And this is going to be like the last few minutes of a James Bond movie, just when we're about to crash and overheat and die from heat exposure and our inability to grow food in these elevated temperatures, not to mention extreme droughts, extreme floods, and other extremes, and sea level rise, and pandemics, and et cetera, et cetera. This is, we're just about to crash. Collective superintelligence exponentiates to the stratosphere just in time. And we're able to develop solutions which look miraculous to us today, like solar radiation management, which we've been working on with a team from Harvard led by Dr. Ye Tao. And it will cool our planet arbitrarily quickly. That's just for example. But in order to be able to organize ourselves well for that, we've got to stop the coronavirus. Well, let's unleash collective superintelligence on that, right? And as you can tell by the exponential, backward extrapolate that exponential, and it's taken us a number of years just to get to this point of platform, culture, rule set, experience, community, etc. So it's been quite a journey, and now we're just inside the knee of the exponential, and again, not a moment too soon. Questions or comments? And no hurry.
Well, this is new for me, and you're talking about collective intelligence and problem solving. And just as an example, coronavirus, right? That's already out there. I see it more as some action needs to be activated or progressed or implemented. That we develop a virus, not a virus, inoculation for the virus, which the scientists are saying is more than a few months away, and the powers to be globally are working through a strategy of shutdown, self-isolation, which we're all in at the moment. So how's the collective intelligence of understanding what the problem is? But we don't really have at the moment a solution except isolation. So how is collective intelligence going to improve on that?
Sure. So let's break it down into the two domains for solution. One is preventing the spread. That's what isolation addresses.
Yeah.
And the second is an actual cure, right? An actual vaccine, right? To cure a patient who's already been infected. Okay. Let's address them in sequence. The first one first. How do we prevent the spread? Well, it's true we have policies of isolation, but guess what? They're weak policies in the sense that people still leave their homes to go shopping, and they go to grocery stores and they cough on the produce and they touch this and they touch that and they touch everything, and they're still spreading it around. There's a better way, and that is to do exactly what the Chinese did. We don't need to reinvent the wheel here. They did it and it worked. Bring food to everybody, right? Oh, but that's about, but what? Our economy is collapsing. Do we want it to go all the way to the floor like an aluminum beer can on a Saturday night? You know, well, guess what? Big problems call for big solutions, and it's time for us to pull up our big boy panties and get to work on this. So that idea, fine, you can agree with the idea. We can all agree with the idea.
Yeah.
How do you get it done? Not just how do you get it done logistically, how do you get it done politically? Right?
And for the one of another description, and physically, how do you implement some solution?
Yeah. All this does is it opens up a Pandora's box of 1,001 questions and no answers, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's why we need collective superintelligence, so that it can break down this 1,001 questions into a logical taxonomy, identify the connections between the topics, and develop a parallel taxonomy of conversations, which covers all of the topics and in creative ways. And that taxonomy itself will be evolving. Both taxonomies will evolve, both the questions and the conversations, to answer those questions and to develop all the specific solutions across all the relevant domains: engineering, finance, politics, culture, media, religion, religion.
Well, this is my basically first meeting, and it's all a new concept for me. But who is going to coordinate all the collective information and actually implement it, or decide why, where, or if it's going to be used?
Right. So the answer to that is basically the same kind of answer as the answer to the question, who are all the financial managers who manage Bitcoin? The answer is there are none, right?
Yeah.
And likewise, there would be no managers to manage this. It would be, ideally, it would be as decentralized as Bitcoin, and it would simply be essentially a free public utility that people can find, But this is where culture comes to play. Culture is such an important part of it, because we need to evolve a culture where people are not afraid to jump in, right? You all are very smart, very confident, very articulate. You're not afraid of saying something stupid on camera. You kind of got over that when you were 12, right? Reciting something in front of, history class in school or something like that. You got over it, right? Well, a lot of people haven't gotten over it. And this is a new medium. And everyone's afraid, a lot of people are afraid of being recorded. No, don't record. Everyone's afraid because of, all the different Facebook nightmare scenarios and whatever else. And so we need to evolve culturally. And we also need to evolve the platform, just like the slides I showed. We need to evolve the technological platform. We're in relatively early stage, right?
That's right.
But it doesn't feel, it's not early for me. For me, it's tremendous momentum because I've been at it for years. An exponential has three parts. Flatline, is it dead? It looks dead. It's dead. I'm sure it's dead. The knee of the exponential, right? A quarter turn in a circle, and then the vertical, right?
Yeah.
It, having been at this since early 2014, full-time, nonstop for 6 years, I've been through 6 years of flatline. I know what that is, and this is not that. So we're growing, and because of the urgency, and frankly, look, solutions, there's lots of possible solutions, there's lots of known solutions, but what we need is something more than a basket full of solutions collecting dust. We need the ability to coordinate. We need the ability to come together, cross-pollinate. Yeah.
Or the resources to actually implement it. You know, I mean, it may take a lot of people, equipment, or some form of coordination to achieve some of these things.
Yeah, we have plenty of equipment. What we lack is coordination. And what collective superintelligence is going to give us is decentralized coordination, right? So, for example, if we want to look at what is the optimal plan for distributing food at a macro level in the United States, right? We want to get food to all the households. First of all, we would have prioritized big cities because that's where there's the most contact and most risk. So we'll have different policies for big cities, medium, small towns, villages, rural. Okay. Those will be developed essentially GitHub style, essentially the Linux, Linux. Well, it was Linus Torvalds who developed GitHub. Are you familiar with GitHub? Okay. GitHub is the world's biggest platform for open source software development, right?
Okay.
And the concept for it was developed by Linus Torvalds years after he pioneered Linux. So it's a very highly evolved form of doing open source. And of course, Linux was is a legendarily famous, successful, open source project, the first big successful one. So it's on very solid foundation that their model of essentially branching out, but then bubbling the best versions, the best solutions to the top. So we would follow a very similar model to that and bubble the best solutions to the top. They would be tested objectively because just like that green image you see on the screen here that says not for sale, take away the words not for sale and imagine that it represents a computer model of the entire world, the whole world, with a very detailed taxonomy spanning all ecosystems, life supporting systems, human systems, infrastructure, you name it. So we know exactly what we're working with. We know exactly what cards we have in the deck, and that's our initial conditions, but it's also our simulator for simulating different combinations of solutions that we might implement going forward, right? And therein we enter the realm not just of modeling, but of optimization. Okay, we've got all these, tens of thousands, millions of candidate solutions. What is the optimal set? What's the winning set of solutions? And in what amounts, and in what geographies, and in what time frames? In other words, the holistic set of.
But excuse me for butting in, but what is going to determine that? A computer program or a group of people to propose whatever strategy for the rest of the group?
Again, it's decentralized, so there will be. It will please Cesare to know that there will be competing computer models. There are currently on the order of 8 or 10 actively maintained global climate models, for example. So, and I think that's a healthy thing. They provide checks and balances for each other, among other things. Meanwhile, the data surrounding any given solution, since it's all open source, it's all transparent. And so, for example, I might create a CAD file using essentially GitHub methodology that I referenced earlier for open source. It works for software, it works for 3D CAD models, it works for anything, as I demonstrated to Bill Gates years ago when I was working at Microsoft. We will bubble up the best designs to the top. Those designs they'll be precise. Therefore, prototypes can be rapidly produced, but more importantly, they can be computer modeled in the field. So if you have an SRM solution, solar radiation management, we'll be able to measure and model material requirements, construction costs, installation, maintenance, etc., reflectivity, all the impacts that are intended, the impacts that are unintended. And of the unintended impacts, some of those could be positive and some of those could be negative. We need to model the full spectrum, right? And because it's all open source and it's based on scientific data, published data, peer-reviewed, gets the highest grade. Same measuring stick as Guy McPherson uses. We would be able to objectively audit any proposed parameterization of a given solution within the global model that we see on the screen here, right? So it's all open source. And the collective intelligence would swarm around, like back to the flowers and the bees, the collective intelligence will swarm around any discrepancies between, in the data and get stuff resolved. And because the conversational domain is so all pervasive, right? If there's something that's being modeled right now and the parameters are being worked out, chances are there's a conversation happening about it, right? Because, 7 heads work better than 1. It's as simple as that. And you happen to have the right talents to be in this conversation. You're in Perth, Australia. You're in Perth, Australia. We span the globe. The sun is shining for one of us at all times. So we're able to.
Well, it is.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thanks very much. I'm gonna have to call it a night because I'm not far from bedtime, so that's my day. But it's been a pleasure meeting all of you, and we'll probably see you on Sunday night, maybe.
Oh, so Sunday night for Cesare's.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know if I'll be available for that because I do close to 40 hours of video conference every week.
Well, that's a lot of hours. Yeah.
Well, and
anyhow,
I moderate most of it. Like right now, we're literally 5 minutes away from the end of a 24-hour video conference that I've moderated the whole way through. 24 hours straight. And I do this every Friday, Saturday.
Well, I can only take my hat off to you because I've worked 16 and 18-hour shifts as required by myself. I was actually knackered after them. So I don't know how you manage that. Probably you're a lovely lady bringing you cups of tea. But,
yeah, I'm not complaining, and I'm living my dream, my purpose for being here on planet Earth. So,
well, if it's your passion, that isn't really hard work.
It's not. It's a labor of love. Do I look tired after 24 hours of moderating?
Yeah.
Ask me more questions. I'm just kidding. It's bedtime, Michael. But anyway, but we do this every week, and you're absolutely welcome to join all of our meetings. Go to radish.org. That's our organization. You can find all the links there. I'll put it. Yeah, I'll type it in.
Yeah. Or if you can send me the link or whatever, because I mean, if it's 24 hours, I mean, that's within my daylight hours, and I might be able to contribute something.
Whether you're in Cork, Ireland, or Perth, Australia, there within those 24 hours.
That's right. There's daylight somewhere.
Daylight somewhere, exactly. Just like we say, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. If we want to open here,
that's it. Well, when you want beer o'clock, well, it's beer o'clock in Ireland or the US or Japan or somewhere.
So we call it block party o'clock or block o'clock. So it's always
block o'clock. Oh, yeah.
O'clock somewhere.
Yeah. All right. Well, then, thanks for the introduction and nice seeing you all. And we'll either see you Sunday or the next block party or see you soon anyway.
Beautiful.
And thanks very much, Cesare and Roman, and nice to meet the others too. So we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you, Cesare, for introducing us to Michael. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well.
Great to know you, Michael.
Yeah.
Have a great night.
Okay. Yeah,
Goodbye.
thanks. See you all.
Good
Yeah,
night.
bye.
Man, Cesare, I'm not surprised, and I am impressed. You know, we have the expression "birds of a feather flock together," and I can tell you, you generally fly around with smart people. I would expect nothing less of you, Mr. Bond.
Well, I was interested in hearing what you were talking about right before these guys showed up, but the party's almost over, so.
We can keep talking. I'm on fire.
Well, I got to go to the store sometime soon, and we're going to have the countdown shortly, but I still got a few minutes after the closing ceremony.
Okay, good. Closing ceremony. I think you said the same words the other day, wasn't it right? Closing ceremonies? Was that you?
That's what you call it. You call it.
Okay. All right, indeed. In about a minute and a half, we'll have the closing ceremony. All we do is we do a countdown from 10, and then we keep talking. So don't hang up after the countdown.
Because you know what you were saying, I was like, yay, all right, Jamin's getting it about you know, freedom. So
Totally, freedom. This is nothing government related. But here's the cool thing: just like, and this is there's such massive intersection. I mean, we just gotta get together and have a secret love child or something like that. I'll be on top. No, I'm just kidding. But we got to mash up, you know, Agora and CSI. It's as simple as that, right? We need, but another way of looking at it is they could be just different modules of a distributed thing. So nobody puts a gun to your head and says, hey, you must use Agora, or you must use the conversational domain. Use whatever you want. Here's the menu, right? That's the basic paradigm. So distributed, no government, no nothing. Just frickin' get together and jam and let the best ideas bubble to the top. On this, we can agree as we toast our beers and the bubbles rise to the top. Clink. Okay. Chin chin. Let's do the countdown. James, are you ready? Natalie, are you ready? Adam, Dave, Roman, Cesare, Jamin. Countdown time, sweetheart.
Hi, Cesare.
Just
Cesare.
follow my lead. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Woo!
Goodbye.
All right.
Hi, James. Hi,
Take care.
well done for hanging in.
We're still hanging in there, Roman, if you want to stay a while, because Cesare wants to chat for another bit. So we're all up for that if you want to hang on there for a while.
The sun's just getting up over there. Oh, it's over here, I mean.
Yeah, it's like.
There, it's coming up here.
All right, awesome.
Good night.
Okay, sweetheart.
Good
I'll
Good
get in a
morning,
minute. Good
rather.
morning. Yes. Anyway,
Right, Melissa.
there's a really great 30-minute video that I highly recommend you could watch to get kind of some of the basics down about collective superintelligence. Because, like I said, it's just this massive hyper object, and it's like, you know, where do I begin? So, you know, I was trying to give sort of an accelerated intro to you and Michael, just to, you know, for openers. But that 30-minute video will help a lot. If you go to radish.org, which I'll type in here, just like it sounds, radish.org, the vegetable radish. You go click on the Collective Intelligence banner. And at the bottom of that page, here, in fact, let me just find the exact link. That'll make it easier. And okay, here we go. Here we go. This page has 30 minutes of video. Radical collective intelligence in 30 minutes. And then beyond, once you watch that, you're good to go. Just, you know, we do this block party every Friday, Saturday for 24 hours. And then on Tuesdays, we have an 8-hour meeting that goes from 11 o'clock in the morning Pacific time until 7 p.m. Pacific time. So it's 8 hours, and it's called the Solution Club. The Solution Club at the beginning of the New World. And it's, in a way, it's a bit more perhaps concentrated than the full-blown 24-hour block party, where we just have basically infinite time to go into lots of different topics.
Okay, fine.
Mm-hmm.
I look at this.
Awesome. And I'll also put my email in there, so feel free to email me. And all the links to join all the meetings are on radish.org. So just join any meeting at any time. You will be guest of honor and love to hear your thoughts. Whenever is good for you at any meeting. So we meet twice a week. Boom, 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 boom. Tuesday, Friday, Saturday. Tuesday, Friday, Saturday. Like that. Although the Tuesday meeting, it may even, time-wise, it may, if you wanted to catch a piece of that, it might be better for you to catch the tail end of that, because it would then be, you know, no. It'd be late at night for you then. No, that wouldn't make sense. Sorry. No, you'd want to catch the earlier portion, but stay as late as you want, of course. Anyway. And then the block party, just jump in whenever it's good for you. And it's okay to pop in and out, no problem.
Yeah, okay. But excuse me, Jamin, does it have any price, like $20, or it was like a joke?
No. What did I say about $20? Did I say $20? There's no. If I did, it's a joke. There's no price. It's all.
Oh, okay, because it's thinking about like.
No, it's a public service. No, totally free. Always will be. No money associated with it whatsoever. But no, I'm just curious. When did I mention $20?
It was like half an hour ago. I heard something. Maybe it was like something I understand wrong, like, you know, but.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Anyway, no cost whatsoever.
Okay, fine.
Mm-hmm.
But what about this? It's like you like the leader of this organization?
Yeah, I'm the co-founder and president of Radish.org.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great.
At your service.
But actually, I can like understand. It's like really hard to make video like 48 hours.
No, 24 hours. 24 hours.
Like, but every Friday and Saturday, or it's like it start from Friday and to Saturday. Okay, until Saturday. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I say
Okay.
Friday, Saturday. Yeah. 6 a.m. to 6 a.m.
Oh yeah. But you looks like after 24 hours, you look so energetic, you know.
Well, you didn't, first of all, you didn't see me 5 hours ago when I was just like, you know, you kind of, it's kind of like running, right? At first, you know, you're tired, and then you got a second wind. It's kind of like that. And also, I'm very happy that we're at the tail end of the 24 hours instead of halfway through. Halfway through, it's like, oh shit, I just worked 12 hours. I could use some sleep. No, boy, you got to work another 12. Oh no, you know. So I'm very happy now. I'm like euphoric. I'm like, woo, you know. Like, I'm gonna have some beers. I'm gonna smoke some ganja. I'm gonna watch some Netflix. I'm gonna eat some food. You know, all that good stuff.
Well, great. Thank you. It was really like interesting, your introduction. It's like, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're so attractive.
Pardon me?
You're attractive.
I am
like a speaker. Attractive.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, I've had a lot of practice.
Yeah, I feel it like.
Yeah, no, I was a corporate strategy manager at Microsoft for several years, and so I've literally presented in front of Bill Gates and Ray Ozzie and Alex. I mean, all the top brass of the company, and Bill Gates, he is brutal, right? If he doesn't like something, he's been known to say, right, in a meeting, that's got to be the stupidest idea I've ever heard in my life.
Whoa.
And if he doesn't like you, he'll turn to Steve Ballmer and he'll say, we pay this guy? He's brutal, right?
Yeah, it's really brutal.
I had to take my samurai sword and practice on an old tree stump for hours before the meeting. No, I'm just kidding. No, so I've had a lot of practice. And then when you master something, when you present, it's like anything else. You just do it, and you achieve mastery. Well, I don't know if it's like anything else, you know, but if you combine that with your calling, so I'm curious, what is your calling, if I may? And I'm gonna pause recording just because